Do you remember that moment when you first truly understood that the earth is round? Not when they told you in school, but when you actually got it. That click in your head. Oh, that's how it is. The same thing happens with understanding how reality actually works. Only the scale is different. And the consequences are too. Most people live as if the world is a flat surface. Everything's simple. There's you. There are other people. There are events that happen to you, either randomly or by your will. Period. But imagine you rise higher. And you see that this flat surface is actually part of a huge sphere. And everything that seemed separate and random suddenly reveals itself as part of one interconnected whole. This is what deeper awareness feels like. It's not about becoming smarter or more spiritual. It's about seeing the connections that were always there, but invisible from your previous viewpoint. Most people walk through life wearing invisible blinders. They see only what's directly in front of them. The job, the problems, the daily routine. They react to what happens, never wondering why it happens or how it all fits together. But there's a moment, and maybe you're having it right now, when those blinders start to slip. You begin to notice patterns, synchronicities, the way one thing leads to another in ways that seem too precise to be coincidental. Someone mentions a book and the next day you see it in a store window. You think about an old friend and they call. You need an answer to something, and the perfect solution appears from an unexpected direction. Is this luck? Coincidence? Or is something else going on? What if I told you that reality operates more like a vast web than separate, isolated events? Every thought, every action, every choice sends ripples through this web, and these ripples come back to you in forms you might not recognise. The person who cut you off in traffic this morning, what if that delay prevented you from being somewhere you weren't supposed to be? The random conversation with a stranger, what if it planted a seed for something important later? This isn't mystical thinking, it's pattern recognition. It's seeing the bigger picture instead of just the pixels. When you start to see these patterns, something shifts inside you. The world stops feeling chaotic and random. It starts feeling intelligent, like there's an underlying order that's always been there, waiting for you to notice it. And once you notice it, you can't unsee it. It's like learning to read. Once you know how letters form words, you can't look at text and not understand it. This is what deeper awareness really means. It's not about having special powers or secret knowledge. It's about recognizing the connections that make up the fabric of everything. It's about seeing the web instead of just the individual threads. But here's what's really interesting. When you start seeing these connections, you realize you're not just observing them, you're part of them. Your awareness itself becomes a factor in how things unfold. This changes everything. So you've started to see the connections. Good. Now let's go deeper. Think about a spider's web for a moment. Touch one strand anywhere, and the entire web vibrates. The spider, sitting in the centre, feels every movement instantly. It knows exactly where the vibration came from and what caused it. Reality works the same way. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every decision you make sends vibrations through the web of existence. And just like that spider, the universe feels it all. But here's what most people don't realise. You're not just touching the web. You are the web. Every person, every tree, every star, every grain of sand, we're all different points on the same vast network of existence. When you truly understand this, you stop seeing yourself as separate from what happens to you. You start recognizing that you are in constant conversation with reality itself. That job opportunity that appeared out of nowhere, that wasn't luck. Your readiness for change sent out a signal, and reality responded. That difficult person who keeps showing up in your life, they're reflecting something back to you that you need to see about yourself. This isn't about positive thinking or manifestation tricks. This is about understanding the actual mechanics of how consciousness interacts with the world around it. Your awareness is like a tuning fork. When you're operating from fear, you pick up on threatening situations everywhere. When you're flowing with genuine curiosity and openness, you start noticing opportunities and solutions you never saw before. Most people think they're victims of circumstance. They believe things just happen to them. But when you see the web, you realise things happen through you. You're not separate from the circumstances of your life. You're actively participating in creating them moment by moment. This sounds overwhelming at first. You mean I'm responsible for everything that happens to me? Not responsible in the sense of blame. Responsible in the sense of responsable. Able to respond instead of just react. When you're unconscious of the web, you're like someone sleepwalking through a conversation. You miss most of what's being communicated. You respond to yesterday's situation instead of what's actually happening now. But when you wake up to the connections, you start hearing the subtle language reality uses to communicate with you. The repeated number sequences, the songs that play at exactly the right moment, the coincidental meetings that change everything. You begin to notice that reality has a sense of humour. It's constantly offering you exactly what you need, often in the most unexpected packaging. The problem you're struggling with, the solution is probably sitting right next to you, disguised as something else entirely. This is where deeper awareness becomes practical. You stop forcing things and start cooperating with the natural flow of events. You learn to read the signs that tell you when to move forward and when to wait, when to speak up and when to listen, technical moment. If what you're hearing right now resonates with you, hit subscribe. This shows that the information is valuable. The most amazing thing about seeing the web is that it makes life feel alive again. Instead of going through the motions, you're engaged in an ongoing dance with existence itself. Every day becomes an adventure because you never know how the web will reveal its next pattern. And the more you pay attention, the more responsive it becomes. It's like reality has been waiting for you to join the conversation. Now that you can see the web, everything changes. But seeing it is just the beginning. The real transformation happens when you learn to navigate it consciously. Most people, even when they start noticing the connections, still try to control them. They want to use this understanding like a tool. If I think positive thoughts, good things will happen. But that's like trying to control a river by pushing the water. The web doesn't respond to force. It responds to alignment. Think of it like learning to surf. You don't control the wave. You learn to read it, feel it, and move with it. The wave carries you, but only when you're in harmony with its natural movement. This is what deeper awareness actually looks like in practice. You stop trying to make things happen and start allowing them to happen through you. Let me give you an example. You need a new job. The old approach is to send out hundreds of resumes, force networking, and push against every closed door. The aware approach is different. You get clear on what you actually want. Not just any job, but work that fits who you're becoming. Then you pay attention. You notice when conversations naturally turn toward opportunities. You follow the threads that feel alive, not the ones that feel heavy, and something amazing happens. The right opportunity doesn't just appear, it appears in a way that feels inevitable, like it was always meant to be. This works because you're not fighting the current anymore. You're swimming with it. But here's what's crucial to understand. This isn't passive waiting. It's active awareness. You're constantly tuned in, constantly responsive, like a jazz musician who listens to the other players and responds in real time, creating something new that none of them could have planned. The web is always offering you information about your next step. The key is learning to distinguish between the voice of your conditioning and the voice of deeper knowing. Your conditioning sounds anxious and repetitive. It tells you what you should do based on past experiences and other people's opinions. Deeper knowing sounds different. It's quieter but more certain. It often suggests things that don't make logical sense but feel completely right. It tells you to turn left when logic says turn right. And somehow, turning left leads you exactly where you need to be. This is how you start living from awareness Instead of just thinking about awareness, you make decisions from a different place. Instead of asking, what's the safe choice? You ask, what's the alive choice? Instead of what will other people think? You ask, what does this situation actually call for? Instead of how can I get what I want? You ask, what wants to emerge through me? These aren't just different questions. They come from a different level of consciousness. And they lead to a completely different quality of life. When you're operating from this deeper awareness, you stop feeling like you're swimming upstream. Life becomes more effortless, not because it's easier, but because you're working with a natural intelligence of existence instead of against it. Problems still arise, but you relate to them differently. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, you see them as information. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You ask, what is this showing me? What's trying to emerge? This shift in perspective changes everything. Challenges become doorways, setbacks become redirections. What used to feel like bad luck starts revealing itself as perfect timing. And the most beautiful part, the more you live this way, the more the web responds. It's like reality recognizes that you're finally paying attention. So it starts offering you increasingly subtle and elegant guidance. You're not just surviving anymore. You're participating in the ongoing creation of your life. So here we are. You've seen the web. You've learned to read its signals. Now comes the most important part. Living as someone who knows this is real. Because knowing something intellectually and embodying it are two completely different things. You can understand that everything is connected, but still react from old patterns when life gets challenging. You can see the signs, but still ignore them when they point in directions that scare you. This is where most people get stuck. They have moments of clarity, glimpses of how things really work, but they don't trust it enough to let it guide their actual choices. The activation happens when you start betting your life on what you've seen. When you make decisions based on this deeper awareness, even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else, including the part of you that wants to stay safe and predictable, it's like standing at the edge of a cliff with invisible wings. Logic tells you not to jump. But everything else, your intuition, the signs, the feeling in your body, tells you that jumping is exactly what this moment is asking for. And then you jump, and you discover the wings were real all along. This is what it means to live awakened in an unawakened world. You're operating from information that most people can't see. You're making moves that look crazy from the outside, but feel absolutely right from the inside. Your family might not understand why you left that stable job to pursue something uncertain. Your friends might think you're going through a phase, but you know something they don't know yet. You're not following a plan anymore. you're following the intelligence of life itself. And that intelligence never leads you astray, even when it leads you through territory that looks dangerous or unfamiliar. The beautiful thing about this level of awareness is that it becomes self-reinforcing. Every time you trust the deeper knowing and it works out, your confidence grows. Not confidence in yourself, but confidence in the process. Confidence in the benevolent intelligence that's always been guiding everything. You start to see that all your struggles, all your mistakes, all the times you thought you were lost, they were all part of a larger pattern that was always working in your favour. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was accidental. Even this video right now, this isn't happening by chance. Something in you was ready to hear this. Something in you called this information into your experience because you're at a point where you can actually use it. The activation is complete. When you stop seeing yourself as someone learning about awareness and start being someone who lives from awareness. When awareness becomes as natural as breathing. You don't have to think about reading the signs anymore. You just read them. You don't have to remember to trust the process. You automatically trust it because you've seen it work too many times to doubt it. This is when life becomes truly magical. Not because impossible things start happening, but because you realise that what you thought was impossible was just life operating according to laws you didn't understand yet. The person you were before this understanding seems like someone you barely remember. The problems that used to keep you awake at night either resolve themselves or reveal themselves as gifts in disguise. The future that used to worry you becomes something you're curious about instead of afraid of. You're not the same person who started watching this video. Something fundamental has shifted. The awareness that was always there, waiting in the background, has moved to the centre of your experience. And now you have a choice. You can try to go back to the old way of seeing things. Pretend this understanding doesn't exist. Or you can let it transform how you live, how you choose, how you show up in the world. If this video has changed something in you, write in the comments, "I see the web now." Write it as your promise to yourself that you won't forget what you've remembered here. The world needs people who can see the connections, who can read the signs, who can navigate by deeper knowing instead of surface appearances. Maybe that person is you. Nobody